Assalamu alaikum, my name is Shyam Phillips and I am a patisserie chef. I studied at Capsicum Culinary Arts Studio and am graduating in June. Today I am currently a private chef and an au pair, and today together with cookhalal.com I will be preparing and making a chocolate fondant, also known as a chocolate lava cake. In order to make chocolate fondant, you'll be needing dark chocolate, unsalted butter, icing sugar, unsweetened cocoa powder, cake wheat flour, and eggs. We'll be starting to make the chocolate lava cake now. Firstly, you want to take your dark chocolate and put it on a double boiler in order for it to melt. Whilst that is on the double boiler, you put your butter in the microwave in order for it to melt. You can warm it up for a minute. While your butter and chocolate is starting to melt, you can start by whisking your eggs and egg yolks together. You will now be whisking 3 whole eggs and 2 egg yolks. You can stop whisking when they're all nicely incorporated with each other and when they're nice and thick. I will now be stirring the 110 grams of dark chocolate. I learned this recipe during my time studying at Capsicum, and I put my own nick on it, adding a bit more chocolate, adding a bit less chocolate and a bit more cocoa powder. I'll be stirring the chocolate. Once the chocolate is beautifully melted, you can switch your stove off and take your glass bowl off of the double boiler. Be careful that because it will be hot, and you can place it down. Your butter at this point should be melted, and we can incorporate the butter into the melted chocolate. Because I'm a private chef, I haven't done too much baking during the year, but on a Friday with the kids at our pair, I do something called a master class for 2 hours where I teach them either how to cook or something easy to bake that they can do by themselves. This recipe is really easy and fun to do with your kids. Whilst mixing your butter and your chocolate, make sure that you fold in your chocolate nicely with your butter so that there aren't too many lumps. When your chocolate butter mixture is incorporated perfectly, we will be tempering our chocolate butter mixture with the eggs. Tempering is mixing the hot mixture with cold eggs. This is to ensure that you do not cook your eggs when adding the hot mixture. We will now be tempering our chocolate mixture with our eggs. So you add a little bit and you whisk. You add a bit more and whisk. You want to be sure not to waste any ingredients, so you can just spoon out the last bit of chocolate. Once you are finished whisking your chocolate mixture with your eggs, it should be nice and runny and looking almost like a pudding. We will now be going on to the next step, which is sifting your dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. We will start with our 110 grams of icing sugar, and you can. Most people like using caster sugar, but I prefer icing sugar. It gives a more sweeter taste and a better texture. Make sure there's no big granules in, as it would change the texture of the cake. We would now be going into our 34 grams of unsweetened cocoa powder. As I said before, I added less dark chocolate and more cocoa powder. It makes it more rich and gives it texture, give it more of a cakey texture, and makes the goo also really nice and tasty. We will now be going on to our 34 grams of cake flour. Now that all of our dry ingredients are sifted in, we will now be whisking in all our ingredients in together. Be sure not to over mix your batter, as this could end up in the cake not having the gooey texture in the middle. Starting at capsicum was really an adventure for me. I felt a bit lost at the beginning, as I wanted to first do hot kitchen, which is working with meats and stuff, but because it was a requirement to work with pork, I decided to do patisserie. I always had a love for baking, but I didn't know it was this great until I started studying. You want to mix until all of the lumps are gone and that it's a nice thick consistency. And that's it. We will now be moving on to pouring our batter into the ramekins. We will now be spraying our ramekins with spray. I prefer to use a nice small ramekin instead of a big one. It gets out more of the batter and just more enjoyment. Be sure not to spray too much, because this could change the texture of your cakes. It could lead to having a runny cake and a cake that's not cooked properly. We will now be adding the batter into the ramekins. When adding your batter into the ramekins, make sure you do not fill it till the top. This cake does rise a bit, although it does not have baking powder in. It does have contains a lot of eggs, which will add to the rising agent. This is an egg-based cake, so it will be quite tasty, but it also is good with protein. Okay. Now make sure not to mess too much on the ramekin. Okay. If you have mess, you can just mix it up like that. You want to pour it in about 3/4 way, so that you can have enough space to rise. The first time I made this, it was horrible. The inside was hard, it wasn't gooey at all, but my sister enjoyed it. I think she lied. As I said, I did change the recipe a bit to suit myself, and I've noticed that it's much easier. It's foolproof. It doesn't mess up, and it's really delicious. Once you're done adding in all of your batter, we can then pop it in the oven. You can just shake all your ramekins to make sure that they are nice and flat on the top and not too lumpy. The oven is then set until 180 degrees, and we will now be adding in our ramekins. With small ramekins like mine, you can leave it in until up till 12 minutes. For big ramekins, you can put it in for up till 14 minutes. Once taken out of the oven, you want to work quickly with taking them out of the ramekins, because the ramekins are still hot, which allows the cake to still cook, and that could cause that it does not have the gooey inside. In order to check if your cake is done, you can lift it up, shake it a bit, Once the cake is done, you can check to see if it's done on the sides. With the spatula, you can slowly cut it away from the sides of the ramekin so that it does not stick. I've put my plate in the freezer for about an hour, and I'm pairing my chocolate fondant with a mint ice cream. Because your chocolate fondant is so rich, the mint ice cream would give it a nice finish. You just want to heat it. Be careful that the ramekin is hot. And you can place it down. Once you place it down, you can use your spatula, and the insides should be gooey. I hope you enjoyed this easy recipe that you can make with your friends, your family and your little ones. If you'd like to find recipes like this and many more, go to cookhalal.com. From me to you, Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Kareem.